because we have a massive team of lawyers and you're just someone who works for a living. Watt and Brittany. Don't even think about it.
Broadcast from an orange Sidewinder and hosted by a vending machine technician, it's Lave
Radio. Attention. Would you like to reorder, rate, or read? Would you like to do so?
Space can be loaded. What now?
Greetings, Commanders, and welcome to episode 103 of the show that talks about the universe of Elite and the fantastic community that surrounds it. Now, this evening, I'm presenting your show because your regular host, Foz, is not here. And it kind of, well, the word host kind of is a bit of a misnomer, really, isn't it? Because, let's face it, we're all on Skype, and we're all in different parts of the country, and there's a lot of technical hooja-magiggy going on to try and get this show to you, which actually I'm not really doing. All I'm actually hosting is the Skype call. And even then, Colin was supposed to be doing that, but, well, things went wrong. So anyway, joining me in the Orange Sidewinder for this episode are the whispering late night voice of Top Shift and the Free Alliance. That would be Colin Ford.
Thank you very much.
And also joining us is the man who will interrupt anybody, Head of Health and Safety.
I will not. Shut up.
There we are. Don't need to introduce him. Ben!
Hey, Alan, how you doing?
I'm fine. I know you will. You will do your best. And finally, we have with us the inimitable. What would the word be? Well, unique. I think is always the word.
Abominable.
Yeah, that's probably abominable. That's
the
good. One. Hailing all the way from Glasgow, where I'm going to go and meet him very shortly in the next couple of weeks for Elite Meet, would be Grant Walcott. Hi, Grant.
Hello, everybody. Yes, I am just setting course for 16 Virginis, on my way to Lave.
So, just before we started, we were running a little bit late. There were a couple of technical issues. Just before we started, though, Colin managed to get interdicted in a Type 9. Ben has just winged out and gone to save him. Bless you both. It was obviously incredibly fraught from this part of the Skype conversation, although the rendition of the Dam Busters was a little bit loud after you'd managed to get away. So obviously it's all exciting, and you've managed to now join us, which is all great, and hopefully we've got other commanders outside of Lave, which is great. If you want, you could join us live. We're hanging out there in game. Apart from me, I have to run the station, which is such a shame. We're in open at Lave Station, and we're also in the IRC chat channel, which you can access through the Lave Radio page. Okay, so I believe Foz has left us some cliff notes here, hasn't he? He's left us things. It's like that lesson when you go in and there's a supply teacher and there's been some work set for you to do. So apparently the first thing we had to do is we had to come up with what was something cool that we found on the internet this week. So, Grant?
I was just going to say I've got a note from my mum. I couldn't do the homework because my kittens ate it. What did I find that was cool? I found this week on the internet, I actually found a highlight video of the Postmodern Jukebox concert I was at in Glasgow, and it was just so awesome to kind of relive some of those moments, and it was definitely amazing. So that was something that was really fun to find.
Ben?
I'm not convinced you want me to go into this, but I found an alternative blow-up image, shall we say, for a show that we're doing tomorrow evening.
Okay. Colin, what did you find?
Well, apart from making the mistake of, or finding the mistake of never leave your Skype window open with the Lave Radio crew, just in case they post something and your son just happens to walk by, and then you hear, "Daddy, what?" I think I've just discovered these husky memes. I've never seen them before, but of course, huskies being very expressive dogs. You've got a silly punny punchline and a dog that looks as if it's laughing at its own joke. What more do you want?
I guess if you're a dog fan, then that's exactly it. For me, it was quite apt really, because my level 6 students, my final year students, did their presentations this week, and as part of their presentations, they have to do them on particular innovative themes in new media. So we had quite a few really interesting new things mentioned, one of which was Night Terrors. If you've not seen the Kickstarter for the ARG game Night Terrors, it's amazing. Really, really clever idea. Pokemon Go they were talking about, Ingress they were talking about. Obviously those are a little bit older. Pokemon Go is coming up fairly soon. And somebody else mentioned the AR incorporation of IKEA. If you've seen the IKEA catalogue, where they've got AR codes in it so that you can use your mobile phone to put a piece of furniture in your house and see what it looks like. So you put down a piece of paper on the floor and it generates the piece of furniture. So you can take a picture as if the piece of furniture is in your house, which is quite cool. And then the final thing was Petite Tube. Yeah, now Petite Tube, which is, I think it's www.petitetube.com, isn't it? Yeah. Is basically is a random selection of the least interesting videos on the internet. So when you log onto the page, and I caution you, this may well be not safe for work because we have no control over the which video that the system will generate. It basically YouTube video that has no views, and of course you will watch it, and therefore it will have one view, which means it will never have it will never get loaded ever again. So, which is all very interesting. So yeah, well, not very interesting because the videos have no views. So anyway, so that moves us on, doesn't it? That moves us on really nicely. So what are we doing in relation to the Lave Radio Network? So guys, I've been tardy here and not really seen what's been going on with regards to the upgrade for the station transmitter and the other bits and pieces with the faction. So do you want to fill me in? What's the latest?
Yeah, I mean it's quite straightforward if you're familiar with doing minor faction work. Essentially, what we need to do, we did the community goal, and that was bringing rares to the station and selling those crystals there. But what everyone was doing was picking up brandy and taking that back to the other destination. And the bad side effect of that was, of course, that when you buy from a station, you put money into the controlling factions. And in Lave, it's quite a unique makeup where the controlling faction is massively percentage-wise influenced. And I will give you a quick figure in about 2 seconds when I arrive in Lave. But with them being so high, the rares really helps bolster their control of the system. And historically through the game, everyone's been going to Lave and on the rare run, buying it, and so the controlling faction of that station is getting a huge boost every time people fill up with Lavian brandy. And that's just, a side effect of the fact that it has got a great commodity there, which means once we get in control, which we can hopefully do, then we'll have that wonderful benefit of being such a high influence in the system, which is, it's one of those things. So the current one, they're 84%. Now, most of the other factions were at 1%, and Lave Radio comes in at 9% at the start. So after that community goal, we are a little bit behind now. We're down to 7%, which is to be expected. But Lave Incorporated is rising to 2%. And the workers of Lave Liberals are sitting pretty right at the top there with 84% influence. So in order to get anywhere in here, we need to bring our influence up and the controlling faction's influence down to a point where they become close enough that we either spark a war or we spark a essentially an election, which is what we've kind of got for the truckers in George Panzati's. And that will be then give the chance for whoever wins to take the best station off the losing faction, which of course would be Lave Station, and would be a huge, massive victory for us. Now the problem is, how would you do that? Well, with such a low percentage influence in a system, the number of Lave Radio Network missions is minimum. You're going to struggle to find them, so you will have to jump around all the stations, Lave Station, you'll have to go down to the planet stations and try and find as many missions you can for Lave Radio Network. Stack them all up, go and complete them, bring them back, and that will help boost the influence. On the flip side, if you want to be a real rogue, if you want to be risking the fact it's going to take us some time to take over Lave Station, then you can do the undermining missions, which is essentially to come in and shoot all the system authority vessels you can, and in fact you can blow up every ship. You try and leave the Lave Radio Network ships alone to carry on their business, and that kind of helps, but basically you will then undermine the main system because they're losing control of the crime count. Equally, you can smuggle to the station. Now that's quite straightforward if you have collector limpets and you've got 2 large ships. What you do is, you can fly in with all the stuff you've bought, dump it just outside, a good 10 kilometres from the station, but don't abandon it. Have your colleague lift it up, get into the station, and then sell it in the black market, and that has the effect of undermining the main faction as well. So combinations of these running missions will help raise our influence, and the higher we raise the influence, the more missions we're going to get, the more mission types you're going to get. You'll become allied with it, so you'll get preferential missions, and with the missions update that could get even better. But it is a bit of a catch-22 at the moment with such a low influence. It's difficult, so we really want to work on missions for Lave Radio Network 100% and focus on that. Don't bounty hunt in the system, because anything you do to help increase that controlling faction is against what we want to do. So really focus on Lave Radio Networks, or if you fancy a bit of taking out some of the system authorities, then go for that as well. And a bit of piracy on the local system won't hurt either.
I'm just wondering, Alan, you've obviously got a fair amount invested lore-wise in the Lave system, especially with it becoming a alliance system. What would you think about it losing its alliance status and being taken over by a bunch of ragamuffins like ourselves?
Well, that was essentially what I was gonna follow up with, because one of the things that kind of we touched on in Ask Me Anything on Reddit this week, and we'll go into that in a little bit more detail in a minute, but one of the things I did touch on was the translation of the fiction factions, as in the factions that are in the book Lave Revolution, into the game factions. And I did a tiny bit of work on this, where Frontier asked, Michael essentially asked the writers if there was anything they wanted to put into, and they wanted, anything they wanted to put into the local news feeds. And unfortunately, the way the local news feeds work is that, anything you put in is a bit of a drop in the ocean, really. So, they disappear fairly quickly. But one of the things I did do in one article is I wrote an article about the makeup of the Lave Senate, and how the current factions in game map to the factions in the book. So the workers of Lave are essentially the formed political faction of the people who lived on the planet and were really oppressed throughout the book, which are the colonials or the settlers, that are sort of mentioned there. The Lavian Defense Party is basically the Interstellars and the Spacers, so that it's the Phoenix Brigade, the people who did all the space fighting right at the end of Lave Revolution, and the Lave Fortune organization is all those fat cat rich domineering people who were allied with Hans Walden, who were running the planet in the first place. But they've still got a load of money behind them. So the workers of Lave and the Lavian Defense Party are kind of like, I've kind of got a vested interest with them. And with the workers of Lave have kind of deserved to run the planet because they were oppressed for all those hundreds of years. So, it kind of makes me sort of slightly torn as it were, in terms of when Grant is suggesting that people conduct nefarious raids to shoot down our system patrol vessels. I'm kind of, I don't know what to think, really, Ben.
I'm kind of in the same boat as you, obviously not for such personal reasons, because Lave, in my mind, is and should be an alliance system. The only times I've done power play was specifically to keep Lave an alliance system, and now we're kind of independent, because obviously the reason that we're independent is actually, I don't think, as a group of guys, we don't have any really strong biases to the Federation, the Imperials, or the Alliance. So, hence being independent.
Yeah, I mean, the mechanics kind of, we probably quite like the mechanics to have more of a sort of a filtered or an active involvement in game, as it were. I mean, it would be nice to see some of the different planets have sort of some sort of influence related to the major faction that saw this, that, and the other in terms of what's there. But I mean, it's still, as you say, it is still it's nice to be green, to quote Kermit, rather than blue or red. If we were none of those things, it's kind of, I guess then the planet's on its own, and or the system's on its own, and you kind of thinking about whether it can manage on its own. I don't think the kind of imperial aggression that we perhaps saw in in 3265. I don't think that's probably on the cards, as it were. But still, it's I think the key thing here is, and let's be plain about it, is nothing should be sacrosanct, should it? People should play with things. People should have the ability to affect things. And that's fun, So let's enjoy it.
I was just going to pull you up on your Kermit the Frog quote. It's nice being green.
Yeah, it was not easy being green.
All right, so maybe it's the other way around, and maybe that then becomes your badge for the Lave Radio Network.
It's not easy being green.
that's your new political slogan. Yeah, it's not easy being green. Sorry, it I mean, it is what it is, and I think, I mean, I told the story of how Lave became an alliance system. I'm not going to hang on to the fact that it's got to stay that way just because why it says it in the book. It's much better that people are enjoying it and kind of making those kind of changes. And I like the fact, and we've certainly seen already, that through the game where certain systems have become interesting, you guys have made the hut and run incredibly important to people, despite the fact that it's bloody boring. The whole point here is actually it creates something active that players are generating story from, and that's what you want. You don't want people to just steer clear of these places and turn them into sort of stilted and static monuments, do you? You want them to be interesting.
It's one of these things where I find the player groups and the minor factions gameplay absolutely compelling. There's so many nuts and bolts to it, and so many different ways that you as a player get to be part of it. You don't have to click a button to say I'm doing this. You just play that way, and it's in the true sense of an open universe and sandboxes that you are influencing the environment far more organically than you would in power play. I think, anyway, power play I think's got its place, and I would, one of these days, very soon, I'm going to turn my head to it, and I'm really going to get into it so that I can give a fair assessment of where it is now, because loads of people love it, and I wouldn't say they're wrong at all. It's just, for me, I found it a little bit disjointed from the rest of the universe. Now, just recently, the Hut and Truckers, we figured we'd got the background sim worked out, and then something very bizarre happened, and from no position of being in the likelihood of going into expansion, we found ourselves expanding into the Altair system, which is obviously, you know, a big system, and it does, as a player group, you do think, wow, we've kind of won a watch here, what can we do? But it doesn't have the tie-in with the lore. It doesn't feel like it. So although we're flipping systems, it doesn't make the universe taste different, if that's kind of a way of putting it. You know, and I think a lot of these updates that are coming through may well add the flavouring to a system that's flipped to an anarchy, for example, and then suddenly you've got this system that's very, very dangerous to go into. But from our point of view, if a system means something to you from fiction, then you're far more likely to kind of find your own reason to jump to its defence or jump to attack it and overthrow it and create your own narrative. It would just be nice to see Galnet reflect that in a more public kind of way. Just that Galnet to me is a little bit of the too long didn't read variety that people just glance at but don't pay too much attention, which is a shame.
Well, I actually spent this weekend doing something in-game but completely and utterly out-of-game missions, which was helping Cecil try and detox. So basically that involved Dave saying Cecil, who is a figure in the Hutton community, has gotten very drunk on his gin, and we need to do an experiment for science just to try and find what kind of rare goods could actually help him out of his predicament, or alternatively give him hair of the dog. Which basically meant that Dave told the truckers to go round all the rare systems, pick up 1 ton of goods, and then deliver that 1 ton of goods times all the stuff you could get to Hutton. And it had no benefit for me whatsoever in game, but I had such a blast just figuring out a good route to get between all the different systems, flying from A to B, and some of them were bloody long way away. You know, I was like, some of them were as bad as the one we did for the blood crystals the other week.
Yeah.
And then, of course, topping it all off with a delivery to Hutton. But that led into a minor error, because I thought, oh, I'm in Hutton anyway. I'll go and do a couple of missions for the mug. And I accidentally picked up a long distance one, which means I need to go back and return to bloody Hutton Orbital to hand it in.
I mean, that is the beauty of these things, is the fact that you can play, just do something daft, but it kind of sparks your imagination in the game. It doesn't feel quite as futile. It's not like you're urinating into the wind. But you get a sense of being part of something. And the Hutton Truckers, we really have, I think we've kind of really got that wonderful gameplay of being able to incorporate different styles. And with the current endurance race, which is going to be spectacular, where it's an SRV race for 600 kilometres, it will take 14 hours of game time.
Oh my word. Yeah, it's Desert Bus.
But
You get 1 point.
Yeah, it's encouraging people to come in teams so that it's carrying cargo across this distance, and so if you want to tag out, then you drop your cargo, and another player comes in and lifts it and carries on that journey for you. So I mean, It's going to be tag teams. It should be spectacular. I'm really hoping it's going to be as much fun as we're hoping it's going to be, and we'll obviously use every single radio station controls we have at our disposal to stay in touch with everyone and give everyone a shout out as we go through this. So it's going to be epic. It's going to be epic.
Yeah, it does sound it. Colin, did you want to just mention what you just put up on the chat?
Yeah, at this moment in time, I'm approaching Lave Station. I've managed to pick up a mission for Lave Radio, and we've got to go and find Big Al Watt somewhere in space in Auvergne. Now, the slight problem with this is I know he's going to be in a rock art ship, and I'm in the orange Sidewinder. So if any of you outside Lave Station would like to wing up and help me get rid of Big Al Watt, it would be appreciated.
What? You're live on air to the entire Lavian populace and the entire Lavian system. You're countenancing getting rid of somebody.
Yes.
Do
But
you
it's
mean,
not even in the system.
do you mean that you're just going to go and have a chat with him and invite him for a cup of tea?
Lavian brandy on me here.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm quite sure I could certainly try to alcoholic poisoning.
So poison. Come on now. You want to make sure that we're being above board about this. Let's face it. The authorities are listening. So let's just say you maybe are going over there to invite him for a drink, right?
Yes.
Okay.
A very long, the longest drink he'll ever have.
That sounds fine. I'm sure you can work that out with people. Yeah. No. Just to chime in on the point that was being made. Essentially, we're getting back to storytelling tools, aren't we? Really, that's what we're kind of talking about here, and that was kind of one of the things I wanted to pick up on as a main sort of theme across some of the other bits we're going to talk about this evening. Storytelling tools. As soon as you start bringing storytelling tools to a sandbox, the more that the design, the company that built the game bring in storytelling tools, the more that people embrace storytelling tools, outside of the game and so on and so forth, the more you start to appreciate what you're actually doing. Some of the, some commanders have gone off out exploring into deep space and have written ship's logs, and that immediately creates something related to what they're doing. It creates something interesting, something beyond just sitting there at a computer and wiggling your joystick, in terms of what you're attempting to do. And I think that the more we sort of see this kind of, whether it's for in-game effect or it's for some sort of fictional effect that's been generated, when we start to see this kind of storytelling idea come to it, whether it's funny or it's for something else, then actually you start to really enjoy. Once you accept it, you start to really do. So yeah, more power to that. More experimenting on Al Watts. That sounds poor guy. I'm sure he's now sampled every liqueur across the galaxy that he could possibly, and consumed any eggs and larvae and grubs and everything else. But
And Thargoid sauce.
oh yeah, well it might be that somebody found some Thargoid sauce somewhere. Okay, so I'm going to move on, if that's all right, guys. I'm going to move us on to some development news, just to start with. So we're going to hear a lot more about the first thing we're going to mention in development news today. We're going to hear a lot more about that tomorrow. So Frontier have launched the alpha for Planet Coaster. They launched that somewhere between, I think it was 10 and 11 o'clock this morning, wasn't it? So I know that Ben has been downloading and cursing on the Skype chat. I thought for 1 second today that he had regressed to being 6 years old when he had a bit of a strop. And I know Chris Jarvis has got it. Grant, I think you've got it as well. So Planet Coaster, do you want to talk a little bit about it? Not too much, obviously, because we've got a show dedicated to it tomorrow, so you don't want to spoil anything. But, what's it looking like?
It uses the Cobra engine, and it's smooth as butter. Although my first installation of it was corrupt as hell, and it looked like some kind of strange nightmare with needles going in your eyes. But once I got it re-downloaded, it was very, very pretty. I've not spent much time on it. It's been a busy day today, but it downloaded, it worked, and it has a distinct feel of all those classic roller coaster theme park tycoon kind of games, and just a little bit nicer, just a little bit prettier, and riding the rides is spectacular.
Ben, what are your thoughts about it?
I think Frontier have done their usual job with the installer in that it was buggered to high buggery. But apart from that, after some manual hacking and various things that we do. And I will have to give Frontier the credit here that their tech support team were awesome as ever. But eventually, after some manual hacking and various nasty things, I did get it running. And I've built a roller coaster of doom and a toilet block.
Cool. Sounds delightful. I think the interesting thing, obviously, what Grant said to start with, was the fact that we're now starting to see the stretch of the Cobra engine, which obviously bodes well for anything that's being produced. So if there's anything further that Frontier are doing with Elite Dangerous or anything else, the fact that we're seeing some of the engine being used for different things, I think that's only going to make it all the better. Foz has said, with the fact that they're hosting the show tomorrow, if there is anything that that listeners want to hear, want us to talk about, I say us, I won't be on, but want the team to talk about on the show tomorrow related to Planet Coaster, then please do. Obviously Foz will be there to host the show for tomorrow, so that will that will be good.
Will you?
I never let anything go. If it's comedy material, then I never let it go. I think that's important. People give me ammunition, I'm quite happy to use it.
That's the Docker's way.
Will Fozzer be present?
I believe so. I think he said he was, but I certainly know that Chris is on tomorrow, so you'll get a little bit of a changing of the guard. So it will. We'll see how that comes to pass. Okay, so we'll move on then to the newsletter. So we've got a little bit in here. We've got our video spotlight. We've got some merchandise sale. We've got some highlights of Horizon. We've got Galnet. We've got the endurance race mentioned, as Grant has mentioned it, the Hutton Cup, which it sounds like a really, really great idea. We might have to think about something for LaveCon, see what we do with that. And then there is a focus on trading and community goals and some comms chatter. So, just first of all, I'm going to turn to, and I know it's a little bit of a way down in the newsletter, but I'm going to turn to Galnet. Now, one of the things that's been mentioned is Galnet's kind of dryness, its staticness, it's being sort of wallpaper, as it were. I think it's improved quite a lot recently. I'm liking the new format, and and I recognise that this is not entirely new. This has been the case for several episodes, but I'm liking the way in which it's now incorporated with pictures. You've got short paragraphs. I think that's become a sort of staple of what they're trying to do with Galnet and specifically Galnet Focus. Much better than this sort of wall of text that we were getting before that. Don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, I must admit, it does seem to be having a little bit more flavour to it and a little bit more meat on the bone, if you like. Yeah. So, you, for instance, one of the stories that we've had lately, which comes off one of the community goals, is the fact that a cruiser is now going to be built. And the other two major factions are now responding to the fact that it's going to be built, which I think is really nice. The fact that one part of the galaxy, there are rippling effects onto the other. There was just I didn't think that kind of thing was there before, but over the last couple of months, I think that that's beginning to creep in.
Yeah, we're starting to see some forking in relation to and be aware I said forking, in relation to a lot of the sort of ongoing things that are happening within the Elite Dangerous universe, and I think that works really well. Where you've got storylines and task-based goals and things that are going on, that some people are involved in this and some people are involved in that and some people are involved in this, and there's less sort of central focus towards one big goal or one big thing. It feels like a more diverse more diverse world. Well, world's the wrong word, universe is the wrong word, galaxy is probably let's get it right. I think just by having a flavour of lots of different things, and maybe, looking at these sections here, I reckon they're probably saying, okay, 100 words, 75 words, that's what you've got to tell your story. And, I think that's good, because then you're covering a cross section of things, and it's punchy. It's much better as a sort of flavour to something for people to get involved in. Ben, did you want to say something?
Yeah, sorry, I'm in the middle of being interdicted, but I was... What was I wanting to say again? This is kind of gotten me because I'm being attacked.
You deal with that, and I'm sure
Sorry.
I'm sure somewhere in your brain that will come back. I thought to start with, I thought you were being incredibly nice and kind of trying to.
I was being polite, actually.
trying to not do what I accused you of right at the start of the show. But anyway, so that I think is something in terms of what's there. It's also nice, connected to the Galnet focus. It's nice to see that there are now, that we're bringing, the different sort of introductions to different aspects of the game and so on and so forth. And I think actually Elite Dangerous has got quite a lot of layers now in terms of you getting involved. I'm sort of slightly, I think it's slightly helpful. It hasn't helped yet, but when I get some time to do it, just the idea of when you've spent an awful long time out of a game and you then go, actually, I fancy getting back involved, and it's changed quite a lot. Is there anywhere I can get a little bit of information to? There is a couple of places I can get some information to. So you can kind of, catch up a little bit in terms of what's going on. That said, you don't want it to do too much. You want it to be able to ease you in and not lose any of the sort of risk reward of the things that you were up to in the first place, or the things you want to get involved in next. So it's nice to see. I've seen obviously the different videos and the other bits and pieces, and I've watched quite a few of those. But the focus on trading is particularly nice. Something that occurred to me actually on the way home today, I was thinking about things to then. I'm wondering, and this relates to some of the other stuff. I'm wondering, what do you guys think about the idea of having some sort of trade or courier bidding system? A high level trade where groups effectively bid to be the preferred courier or trader for a particular, large scale operation. I mean, what are your thoughts of bringing something like that to Elite Dangerous?
I think it's an interesting idea. It models certain aspects of reality that I'm not convinced I like terribly much. I'm not a fan of monopolies and things like that. But it happens. And the ability to say, our group is the only group that can trade gold to Lave, say. Otherwise, everyone else maybe has to smuggle it in the black market. That could be quite interesting.
Yeah, I wasn't necessarily thinking about. I'm trying to remember what the US TV show is. Isn't there? There's that show that basically where these bunch of people. One's got a van, one's got a truck, one's got a something, and they have to out. The lowest bid usually wins a trip. Wins a consignment, and they have then transport these weird consignments all across America, and it's kind of docu-soap and everything else. That's more what I was thinking. I wasn't thinking about monopolies necessarily, just the idea of consignment bidding, and then essentially people bid a lowest price or bid with reputation, because of course you could factor in the trade ranking of the individual who's going to take the consignment, or of the group that's going to take the consignment, or so on. So you could. I just thought it was a nice idea to start thinking about ways in which PvP can be brought into the game, but not in a way that's directly violent. Does that make sense?
I think that makes sense. I mean, we've already got that to an extent, not with the competitive bidding, but there are missions which will say, take 1 ton of gold, sake of argument, to here from here, and you have to have a certain trade rank to get it. But it's not the case of, myself, Colin, Grant, and you are all saying, well, I'll do it for 50 credits, I'll do it for 100 credits, I'll do it for 1,000 credits.
Yeah, that was the bit that I think is something that would be quite cool to do. Grant, did you have something you want to add to that?
Yeah, it was that TV show Shipping Wars where they all undercut each other until it becomes completely unprofitable and they break health and safety rules in order to get the job done.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Shipping Wars. That's the one. Love it. Yeah.
And there's always that same wee idiot at the end going, yeah, I can do that, and then turns up with a small trailer attached to the back of his Fiat Punto, and he's trying to lift a 200-ton monument, of Lord Braben. But it is one of those parts of the game that I think is definitely it's a missing point that would be awesome, is that kind of Sid Meier's Pirates, where you arrive in a port and it tells you that the treasure fleet was here just a couple of days ago, heading over there to Port Royal, and off you go in your ship and you try and hunt it down. And you can do that with NPCs, but equally I'd love to see missions generating clues as to who might be on a long haul mission with a very tasty cargo, in order to encourage proper piracy, hunting down your target, robbing them blind because they've got the cash, and that would be epic. But I still want to see missions that put you against other players. Pick up an assassination mission and then have somebody who's got a sort of bodyguard mission for that person. And I would love to see that kind of gameplay, but it's just not on the cards as yet.
Yeah, it's about levels, isn't it? And I think we can probably The key thing here is that, and I know you guys have covered PvP quite a lot in the last couple of episodes, but it is, the key thing here is about story. And when you start to incorporate story into the way in which player versus player works, it suddenly becomes a little bit more palatable, particularly if you make a focus on the story of the player that's losing. It's not about the winner. If the design is about ensuring that the loser, maintains some kind of, narrative in terms of what they're doing, whether that's, getting a funeral, whether that's, the narrative attached to their rescue from an escape pod, or something else, whether that's, anything at all, I think that's important. And I think there's things there that could certainly be played with. I do think, and I'll say it, and I'll just say it plainly, I think, unfortunately, at this stage, I don't think Frontier have, with Elite Dangerous, have embraced PvP in the way that they would. I think there is, it's there. There's been too much focus on consequence rather than focus on trying to make losing palatable. And I think that's a key distinction. And actually, there are many ways that that this could go, and I'm sure they've got some ideas up their sleeve. I'm not trying to necessarily say that that they haven't. It depends on when that is in the chain of updates. But yeah, certainly having those kind of competitive ideas around a bauble, which is kind of what you're saying, Grant, with the protect the person, kill the person, or even transport the thing, destroy the thing, and so on. It might be nice to have some objects that could be externally towed. That might be interesting, rather than actually fitting in your cargo hold. Anyway, so yeah, just a thought.
A big convoy of ships towing the ships to the back.
Or that great 1970s film Convoy. Let's do something like Chris Christopherson and all the rest of exactly. Shipping Wars or something. Just sort of playing around with those ideas, because you've already got things like the funeral processions. You see the NPCs doing that. It'd be interesting to see some other things sort of along those kind of lines. Things that you can't tow. Yeah.
playing that kind of thing going forward, when we start thinking about population planets, water worlds, if you could imagine how epic it would be if you were in a wee ship waiting for the other 6 ships that have gone sub under the ocean to lift an artifact or some kind of large crash wrecked ship, and then dragging it using some kind of equipment to lift it to the surface and see that emerging from the oceans. Oh, there's just so much potential. That would be just epic, seeing that ancient legacy ship being dragged out of some massive water world.
And if you were doing that and people then ambushed you and smashed everything to pieces, you'd want there to be tools in place whereby that experience still became part of the narrative of what was there. One of the things I do think, I think if this is Commander Clueless talking, all right? So correct me if, in terms of the balance of combat, I do hear I hear what people are doing and everything else. I'm wondering, do you think that the balance towards disabling ships is right? Should ships be easier to be disabled rather than destroyed? I don't know. What do you think?
Well, definitely. Something that forces a dialogue is I think is what's missing, because it's either boom, 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 or you jump out. Oh crap! I'm about to crash into the planet again. This will be my second Cobra of the evening. Never mind. So it is one of those things where it would be awesome to have your ship totally disabled and then see how willing you are to give up some cargo at the end of it all,
Yeah. Maybe even if you've got auto repair systems that are trying to work on it, and so you're trying to, talk the person down whilst you're desperately trying to get something, blah, blah, blah. Yes, exactly, Ben. That is exactly the words. Go on then.
Ion cannons.
Yes, exactly the words. Obviously that's the Star Wars, input of ion cannons in, from Empire Strikes Back. But yeah, exactly. Something perhaps that encourages interaction, within those quite linear, competitive PvP moments. Because at the moment, the way they are is you either die or you get away. And actually, if you can vary that experience, but I'm sorry, I'm preaching. You've got me on. So, anything else in the newsletter, Ben? There was something else you wanted to add.
Well, I think there was something that I noticed, and a bunch of other folk on Reddit also noticed, that in the lovely showing us our tyre tracks, which a bunch of us have been looking for when we're driving around our buggies. If you look at the Cobra, I think it is. On that image, underneath it there is what looks like a thing, which is a utility that we haven't seen before.
Oh, okay. Oh, yes. You mean over in the corner?
Over in the corner underneath the engine.
Could be underneath it, or it could be far away on the.
It looks like it's attached to me, but.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely. Yeah, no, it does. Depends on which way around whether it's attached downwards from the Cobra or it's attached on the ground. I think you're right. I think it's attached downwards from the Cobra. So yes, that's interesting. I wonder what that is.
Could just be a model update for something that we've got duplicate models for, or it could be something new. Who knows?
Interesting. Okay. Right. Anything else on the newsletter, gentlemen? Okay, so we shall move on swiftly. And the next thing to have a look at is, or the next thing to talk about is. Well, actually, no. There are a couple of more things here on the newsletter, aren't there? Really, we've talked about the Elite Stream. We should talk about the Elite Stream. I did mention the sort of helpfuls and what have you. You've also got quite a lot of continual videos. So for those of you who perhaps aren't as experienced about playing Elite, then obviously there's a whole set of different videos from Ed and and continually in terms of what they're doing. We've got the sections of the Galnet and what have you, and then moving out of the newsletter into our main discussion point, Dangerous. Okay. Gentlemen, what's DDF Lazarus?
It's no one.
Aha, I can actually talk about this one.
Okay, so do we want to go for an advert break?
We might have lost a grant. I'm not sure.
Okay.
No, I'm here. I'm waiting. If you want, yeah, absolutely.
I'm just thinking that Ben has just said, shall we go for an advert break? And I'm just thinking that actually just before we start the main discussion, it might be a good idea to go for an advert break. So leaving you tantalizing and obviously incredibly champing at the bit, hoping to listen to all the amazing wisdom that we have to offer you relating to this DDF topic, we will head for an advert break. See you in a minute.
Lave Radio, it's even louder than me. Wait a minute, that can't be right.
Hey, buddy, why the long face?
Exploring is boring.
What? What makes you say so?
Because I have to scoop for fuel at every single store. And then the voices I hear in the store tell me to...
Whoa, sounds like you've got a case of space madness. What you really need is really big gas tank.
What?
With a really big gas tank, you'll be sailing the Milky Way in style and comfort. No more hanging out at every stupid store just to refuel. It's as easy as honk and go. Gotta get to Beagle Point for a romantic interlude? Just honk and go. Want to be the buckiest ball in the galaxy? Just honk and go. And if you fill your really big gas tank with patented Jumbonium 5000, you can honk and go, go, go.
Gee, thanks, mister.
No, thank you. Really big gas tank. Because why wait when you can honk and go? Jumbonium 5000 has been known to cause extra arm growth, outdoor mayonnaise, priapism, and spontaneous starglow face. Use only as directed.
Okay, welcome back. After the delights of the really big gas tank, which, generally speaking, people think I already have a really big gas tank. So we're going to move into the main discussion, and this is DDF Lazarus. This is the announcement recently by Frontier where they are bringing back the DDF, the Design Decision Forum, and they are starting to move the details and the influence of the Design Decision Forum towards things that are going to happen in game. Now, this was discussed some time ago, and there was some debate as to whether people wanted the DDF to have this kind of influence. But anyway, so I'm just going to read through the main issue of the topic, and then Colin, if you want to make a small comment relating to this, we'll sort of take the discussion forwards. So, default in-game choices to be made by the DDF. It's been a long time, but we're finally able to move forward on some of the things we discussed during the Kickstarter with respect to the DDF and the ability of members to decide together on significant actions within the game. There are some big events coming to the game here in relation to an alien species, trying to minimize spoilers here. And members will decide whether these events first take place, or where these events will first take place, and how the process moves on down the line. This will be by voting on the DDF forum with choices of possible locations. As the events unfold, there will be further such choices going forwards. Not sure about the grammar towards the end there, but anyway, all right, guys, thoughts?
Well, I think it's about time that the DDF got their Kickstarter reward, really. Because this is part of the rewards for the Kickstarter, where if you join the DDF, you could make a contribution to the plot or the forthcoming events in the game. It did seem that for a while that the DDF, Sandro put out a message, I think, almost 18 months ago now, between 12 and 18 months ago, not long after the game initially launched, to say, well, that's it for the DDF. And there was a lot of grinding of teeth. But now that we've had this announcement from David, it does seem that it's becoming relevant again. And a lot of people who have completely disappeared, as far as I was aware, have suddenly all just sprung up again. And the DDF has suddenly got conversations going on, which is nice. I do like the fact that we'll be asked to vote. There's a big debate on the forum saying, okay, ask us to vote, but please, we don't want to know the result, so that we still get spoilers. And I do believe, I think the phrase "what's said in the DDF stays in the DDF" might be a good idea going forward.
Too late, obviously. Well, I mean, let's face it. In terms of what we have for the statements, we kind of all know that ultimately that Thargoids are going to come back into the game, because Frontier want Thargoids back into the game. Everyone wants Thargoids back into the game. It's going to be, will be awesome to have them back into the game. Whether this is the Thargoids or not, we don't know. I kind of think that a little bit that once stuff goes on the DDF forum, it is going to get out beyond the DDF forum anyway. And with that caveat in mind, yes, fair enough. Now Lave Radio broadcast it. Everybody's going to know that it's available and is stuff to that's going to be going on. I think really we can't analyze this and we can't discuss it without having the premise, if you see what I mean. If we were going to kind of not talk about the detail of this, it would be very difficult to have a discussion about it. So yeah. So I think we're there now. So Rubicon crossed. What do you think about the proposal?
I think it's a good one. I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens and the debates that will happen in the DDF. A very, very passionate bunch of people, to say the least. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I'm also going to be see if it's interesting to see if people keep their mouth shut.
Well, I'll do my best. Other than today, I've obviously sat on quite a lot of things for about 3 years. Ben, did you have a thought about it?
I'm actually going to take the opposite position of Colin. I don't like it very much. I think that the members of the DDF and the way that they themselves towards the end of the beta process shows that they cannot be trusted to form a civil discussion. So, they blew that opportunity, and frankly, I don't know if I trust them to decide whether the Alliance, the Federation, the Thargoids, or whatever happens. I just don't think I trust them anymore.
Fair enough. Grant?
I didn't know Ben wasn't in the DDF. It did sound like a little bit of... Was that a little bit of sour grapes there, Ben? No, I'm joking. I think it's not the godlike powers I was hoping for. I really wanted to send a lightning bolt up Fozza's Sidewinder. But I was kind of really genuinely hoping that godlike powers would never be realised. It just seems wrong. It just doesn't seem right that any... That's ridiculous when I talk about hunting truckers and groups of players having influence over things. I don't know. It depends how it comes about. And as Ben says, the towards the tail end of the DDF, and in fact the nails in its coffin, were the infighting and the bickering of I know best that was going on in there, and no, this game is, and basically the DDF having an overinflated sense of ownership, which led to a lot of, well, no, your idea sucks and my idea's better, and it went round and round and round. But when they come along and they give you 6 options and it's, pick one, then it's a little bit different. So I'm kind of hoping that it will be okay, and that it will bring a sense of, let's look at Super Cruise. The DDF has had a hugely positive impact on the game, far more so than it's negative, and let's just hope it sparks our imaginations and maybe brings back some of these amazing talents that have since gone awry and gone off in another direction because they either became disillusioned or upset. So
yeah, I remember, and you're going to laugh a little bit about this in terms of my ability to keep anything stum from the DDF. So I remember when the first DDF posting went up, and actually what I was doing at that point in time is I had it on a projector in a seminar, showing my students the basically the investment of people in this community and in this game, because Elite was my example of a crowdfunding project that demonstrated how much fans cared about something. So we weren't, I wasn't asking them to read anything, and it was in nice, small font so they couldn't, but it was showing just the posts and how quickly the posts were ticking over in terms of everyone desperate to get their 5 eggs in about what they thought of, of the particular things that were asked to be discussed. Now, at that point in time, Frontier were reading everything and recording everything, and they were trying to disseminate, the design and the structure of what they've been doing. The situation's changed. We're 3 years down, and by being 3 years down, we are, they know what they want. This isn't a game that is now being designed from the absolute basic building blocks. It has an identity. Over that period of 3 years, we've seen the identity emerge. We've seen them, robustly defend the identity when it's been contradicted. And similarly, the DDF itself, I think to categorize the members of the DDF as a group with collective responsibility, I think is a bit problematic, because essentially you're categorizing a group of people who all pledged a particular tier to the Kickstarter. Now, they're very diverse. Yes, there are some tossers, but yes, there are some incredibly gifted people who've made some incredible suggestions related to the game, and how the game's developed going forwards. And some of those people, subsequently have then been asked about things individually, have sort of offered more advice individually, have done this, have done that, moved off to do other things. Yeah, I think it's tricky. I think handling the DDF, it is effectively, it's a bag of cats that they have to make a decision about what they do with them. Do they keep the cats in the bag? Do they let the cats out the bag? Do they try and keep the cats? It is always problematic, but it is they saddled themselves with originally in the Kickstarter. So to come back to it shows quite a lot of faith, and respect for the people who sort of helped them pull the game together in the first instance. But yeah, it's going to be messy because it's the DDF, and I think it's part of what's there. I'm not sure. Again, I'm not completely sure about the idea of in-game influence. I'm not particularly keen on dungeon mastering, collectively or not, elements of the game. I don't know. Any other thoughts?
Sorry, we're in the middle of a dogfight now.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll obviously see how things come through in the DDF. I take it you're off to go and make a cup of tea for that nice gentleman, and you're now in the middle of a dogfight.
We're trying to find said nice gentleman.
Okay, well that's that's fine.
I think, Alan, the phrase is they're just putting the kettle on.
Oh right, okay, yeah. Well,
yes, we're boiling them up.
Well, you obviously, the fact that you don't use a tea bag and you need a strainer.
Tea bag comes later.
Yeah.
Grant.
Bless. Yeah, we knew we could rely on you. So, it's exciting. Just as a topic, it's exciting relating to the fact that we're actually seeing something moving on another presence in Elite Dangerous other than, the human factions. And obviously we'll see what happens. And, much as I've kind of raised the slightly critical note of saying, I'm not sure it would be me, if I was doing it, I'm not sure I would go with letting effectively the sort of remote dungeon mastering element. It's Frontier's choice. They're the ones with the ball, so they get to kick it in the direction of the goal that they want. So ultimately, we'll see how that pans out. And of course, if it doesn't work out, it won't get done again, will it? So that's kind of a bit of an incentive, maybe, for DDF members to behave themselves. Perhaps, don't know. now they've been starved for a while. You know, now you give them a little bit of a carrot. Maybe that kind of helps.
We won't know how to make a decision.
I believe it's on a vote, isn't it?
Yes.
So I think that kind of just deals with it, doesn't it? You know, you can choose. I mean, I don't think. I mean, I don't tend to be on the forums as much as I used to be, but playing to the crowd is fairly obvious, and certainly we've seen that kind of thing done on the DDF before. Generally speaking, I think you're more likely to see quite focused voting than people attempting to be massively persuasive. But, you know, I mean, we'll see. Could be that, you know, a couple of people have some great ideas.
Sorry, I'm getting cut up by an anaconda now.
It's like listening to someone with constipation. I guess I'll just carry on, and then that kind of, you know, I'll let you guys destroy stuff. That's probably the best way to go.
I think this is what Fozza means by hosting.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Just talk. You know, that's probably the best thing. Okay. So I'm going to move on to Community Corner, and I'm gonna skip around Community Corner a little bit because the top of Community Corner is me. So I'm gonna skip down to a couple of things first. So first of all, elite racers. Okay. Thinking, gentlemen, that I am Commander Clueless, what are we talking about with regards to elite racers? Tell me about them.
Well, I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory. What they do is they set up routes and then race them. So there could be, you know, multiple jumps. It can be, you know, around one station and then back around, and you time it and stuff. They do all kinds of these events, much the same as the Buckyball run.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say, how is it different to the Buckyball? I'm assuming it's a little. They've got their own ideas in terms of because the Buckyball stuff originally was timed runs, wasn't it, over a particular, you know, sort of system.
Yeah, and it's I've not actually been involved in any of their events or been particularly up with them, but they've done loads of, you know, amazing sort of events over the last while, and I know that they've got a team submitted for the Hutton Mammoth Stamina endurance race as well, so we'll get a good chance to have a look and see what they do. And again, you know, crikey, I'm trying to land on my fuel scoop there. It's just one of those. It's another player group, and they just like to have races together, and they do tons and tons and tons. Oh, I think Ben is more familiar with them.
Let me come in and cover for you there, Granchala.
Thank you. I was thinking.
No. Basically, what they do, some awesome races, as you'd imagine by the name, but you know, things that they're fairly famous for is doing races around stations. So they might, for example, do a race out of a station, round to the back of it, skimming the top of it, like, you know, and then going back in again, and then maybe doing it again, and it can lead to some real hectic times. So that's the kind of thing that they do in space, on planets and things like that. They usually find interesting terrain, shall we say, and then they'll, surprisingly enough, race it. So usually it's been flying. I haven't seen them doing driving races yet.
Well, it sounds good, and obviously anything that's through superstructures and what have you, you've got a little bit of the Star Wars going on, haven't you, in terms of what you're attempting to do? So yeah, I mean, anything that encourages more participation, you know, and sort of encourages people to get more involved in the game is great. Now, it's mentioned in the delightful show notes that you folks have put together. They've got their own subreddit, so if you want to get involved, I think you can find that. Does anyone know the link?
Not off the top of my head. I think it's /elite races. I think.
Yeah, r/elite races.
But that'll be in our show notes anyway.
Yes.
Which it isn't currently, but it will be when we obviously release them. That will be the idea. So essentially that's a different sort of racing group that you can go to. We should also mention that the Buckyball Racing Cup is currently advertising. They are advertising for new participants, new folks to come and join them and to get involved. There is a whole setup and post on the Frontier forums, which is if you search on there for Buckyball, and the thread is the Buckyball Racing Club needs you. So that would be very easy for you to pick out. They've gone through and put up quite a lot of the videos of things that they're doing, the training of how to fly runs particularly quickly, and all sorts of stuff really. So yeah, it's certainly racing within the Elite Dangerous game appears to be, very well catered for and very fertile in terms of, finding different things to do. So one of the themes of tonight appears to be, the different races that people are choosing to do, which I think is great. So yeah, okay. So let's go on then in Community Corner. Now, okay, who's put in this lovely bit about the Beggars Canyon run and the Imperial Courier? Whose comment was that?
That would have been mine.
Okay. Can you talk now, Colin? Are you okay? You're safe. You're not busy.
Yes.
You're sat down to tea with Mr. Al, are you?
All I can say is tea has been served.
Oh, right. Good. Okay.
Yes. This was it's available on the latest newsletter, but someone took one of the most maneuverable ships, the Imperial Courier, and did a low-level pass on in some canyons, and I must admit, it is. I think the guy was just trying to keep as low to the ground as possible while basically hit burners. And it just goes to show off the engine, the Horizons engine at its best, going around some of the geography. And you were there just thinking, yeah, you could just imagine, but womp rats just a target. It's one of the things that I've got to break out the Imperial Courier and do myself now.
Well, that sounds great. Yeah, obviously, anything that kind of promotes the sort of the visual quality, because I think there is so much, isn't there, that they've managed to get detail in terms of what's going on throughout the game, and anything that sort of promotes that visual quality at speed is going to look fantastic. So yeah, no. Fair play. So, if people, where can they see the video? Is it in the newsletter?
It's in the latest newsletter. It's one of the featured videos on the on the show. So, yeah, just have a link and just sit back and enjoy.
So, if you've missed it, folks, then that's certainly worth checking out. Colin's going to recommend that to us. So then the next thing in the community corner was this weekend we had some Ask Me Anythings on Reddit. Now, we had two that were prominent. There were actually three over the weekend. There was also a group Ask Me Anything for Lavinia's Legion, which was over on Elite 1. But the two individual ones were for me on the 18th of March. So this was Friday night. So this was from 7 o'clock. I did an AMA. And then Mobius of the Mobius group, and also Photoshopper, signature maker extraordinaire throughout the years of the Elite Dangerous development community. He also did an AMA. So to start with, I thought I'd talk a bit about mine. Well, I was quite happy with the questions and the other bits and pieces. Tried to give them whatever I could. Didn't get anything too spoilery, which was obviously something to worry about. At a given point, you didn't want to give away anything that you weren't allowed to give away or anything else, and people were very good with that. And I was kind of able to give a bit of an update of where I'm at and what I'm up to, which was nice. So yeah, anything you guys wanted to ask me?
Well, no, I think anything I wanted to ask, other people got there first.
Well, Ben did ask one question, but thankfully I think I spooked him, so that was useful.
I have to say, though,
I was going to throw you a softball, but you didn't need it. You had loads of good questions coming in.
Yeah, I thought it was all right. What were you going to say, Grant?
I was just going to say the questions were really interesting. They were nice. They were not sort of infantile, which was really kind of because Reddit's got a bit of a reputation for being a that kind of open forum. You are going to get it, but it was actually. It was really good, and I'll compliment you as well, Alan. The answers were really interesting and informative as well. So it was actually a really nice, warm and fuzzy Reddit Ask Me Anything.
Yeah, I was sitting there and kind of thinking, I want to be as forthright as I can. So a couple of times, I'd post a reply and then go, oh, actually, there was something else, and I thought that was probably. I was worrying I was talking a bit too much, but I think it was fine. People asked the stuff, and it was lovely as well to see in the build-up that people were genuinely excited that I was on. That's lovely. And I one of the things that's been amazing over all the time that we've done the show, when I've done the book, everything else when we've done LaveCon, is the genuine warmth and appreciation people have for when you've worked on things. So. Yeah, it was lovely. It really inspired me a little bit too. I think at some point somebody asked me about what I'm up to at the moment, and I sort of typed up the things that I'm currently working on, and it made me think about one of the projects that I was working on and make a good start. So actually, I've made a bit of a start on my next science fiction novel, because somebody said, "Are you seem a bit more confident or comfortable with fantasy?" And I thought, no, actually, I've recently written a short story for an anthology that's science fiction. I've literally tonight just finished a short story for an anthology that's science fiction, and I've got a science fiction novel idea that I want to finish this year. Much as I've sort of moved towards fantasy a little bit with Chaos Reborn and what have you prior to that. But so actually, I kind of thought, oh, actually, no, if people are thinking of kind of neglecting my science fiction, I perhaps should get back and it, it got me writing, which was lovely. So yeah, it was good. Really enjoyed it. Then we move on to the second Reddit, which was on the Saturday, and this was Mobius. Now, this didn't go quite the same way. No. Anybody have a thought on it initially?
Well, I'm afraid to say it came down to the issue that we have been discussing for the last 3-4 shows. And to tell you the truth, at that moment, I was going to pitch in, but I thought, oh no, I've said everything I need to say. I've got nothing more to add in it, and it did feel like we're treading over the same ground again and again and again, and neither side's going to be happy with any outcome.
Yeah, it's. I've obviously only observed what's gone on somewhat peripherally because of the fact that I am the couple of shows that you guys have covered it, and fair play to you for for hearing out both sides as well as you can. Mobius is one. It's actually it's gone on a little bit further in that there's actually in one or two additional questions have been added in since the Reddit finished, which has been interesting to see that sort of happen. And yeah, it kind of spilled down towards this argument between Mobius and the SDC, so it wasn't really covering so much the details of the Mobius PvE group. Now, I certainly, when I did mine, I was expecting particular types of questions, and actually a lot of what was covered wasn't those questions. There were some that I was expecting, but so you're going to get that to a certain point, but it did very much focus on that binary. Grant, what was your thought?
Well, it was it's like one of these things where now Mobius has always been a little bit on the edge of controversial, sometimes with some very, very strong personal views that he's not afraid to defend or to give out. So he's not someone to shy away from a punch. But for me, it was like a personal ambush to try and discredit him, and really just lots of people wading into something which was more of a personal vendetta than it actually was about PvP. Mobius, you're ruining the game for everyone. Actually, no. If anything, the one thing that Mobius Group shows is that Frontier have underestimated the desire for a PvE mode by 30-odd thousand users, because they didn't think it would be a big thing, and Mobius set that group up way back in the alpha. When we first got groups, so it wouldn't be the alpha, but when we first got groups, he created it in order to create the game he wanted to play. And we're not talking 5 or 6 people. I mean, let's take it. Do we listen to the Smiley Dog crew? How many members have they got in their group versus Mobius? 7 versus over 20,000. Methinks their opinion is a minority, so they can keep it. It's that kind of thing, It's a sheer numbers game. So if people play PvE and a small percentage play the PvP, then everybody's happy. What's the problem?
Yeah, I mean, don't hold back there, Grant, at all. I think that there's one aspect here that I think is sort of important to probably, the fact that from one side they see it as being a game where all aspects of the game are fair game, as it were, and there is a very distinct difference if you think about real life. In real life, there are things we don't do, not because we can't do them. We don't do them because, it's not the thing to be done. There are things called laws, as opposed to you can't do them, as in real life doesn't allow you to. There are certain things you can't do anyway. You can't fly, which is unless unless you're Henry Cavill and have a green screen. But the point here is that actually there are things that we're used to, the rituals of behavior, of accepting conformity, and as games evolve, those ideas of confined behavior in games become interesting. And as an academic, I'm afraid it always becomes a really interesting discussion to me, or at least interesting observation, to kind of see people and how they react to things that happen in a game in both respects. One, how people see others as, or dismiss others. They objectify others and they dismiss others as not being real people. Effectively do things for shits and giggles, which, you kind of see that happen at one element. And I always go back to the Warcraft funeral crash, as an example of this. And on the other side, the way in which people who play a game then, by investing time in that game, become very attached to the things that they have created in that time. Because they put time into them, they regard them as precious. So creators, constructors, and actually sometimes in games you have to have destroyers as well as creators to kind of, balance those things out. Otherwise you just end up creating all sorts of stuff, and there's no, it's exponential. Everyone can't make a profit. We'd like to think that way. Capitalism is sold to us that way sometimes, but fundamentally, if everyone makes a profit, eventually someone has to take a loss, or there has to be a loss. I think all of those kind of behavioral things are interesting. When it got directly into Mobius versus, and it got into, oh, look, let's post up some stuff he said that contradicts what he said here and what he said here. It's the nature of a person. People are human. People sometimes say one thing and then say another. I try, as an individual, I try and basically, if I get something wrong, I hold my hand up and try and say as loudly as I said it in the first place that I got it wrong. People have different ways of doing that, and that's not a criticism at all. It's just, People are people, and I'm not sure it proved anything very much, other than, and I said this to Ben actually. I said, sometimes it says more about you, the question that you ask, than the answer that I give. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but that's kind of what I was sort of saying humorously. But I think certainly on Mobius's thread, there's quite a lot of that. It said more about the people who were asking questions. It did about Mobius in terms of his answers. I think in other places he's answered more forthrightly about particular things. I don't agree with him on quite a lot of issues, but I don't think anyone would have looked at that thread and not felt a bit sorry for him, because it was pretty awful. To put your time into something, to offer yourself and your time, to sort of be genuine and kind of support the Reddit and support everything related to the community, and then have that kind of backwards and forwards. I don't think it really served any purpose. It didn't persuade me about my viewpoint about anybody. I wasn't persuaded to believe that Mobius is any worse a person or better a person, and I wasn't persuaded that the individuals on the other side of it were any worse or better than I've seen of other behaviours. So, it is what it is. It was a bit of a shame, missed opportunity, I think, to discuss PvE in general, because I think that would have been a very interesting discussion to discuss what PvE players want, or what the Mobius PvE players want. One, in terms of how they manage their group, or two, if they can't manage their group, ways in which that they could get what they want within the experience of the main game. So yeah, interesting. Still there. If you want to view through either of these Reddits, or you want to have a look at Lavinia's Legion, which is the third Reddit that was set up over that weekend, you can find them on the Elite Dangerous Reddit archive. Now, the way to get to that is you can go to the Elite Dangerous Reddit, and if you go down the side panel, you'll see that there is an AMA schedule, and there is a full list, and it will give you all the upcoming AMAs. It will also give you the archive, so it'll give you the ones that have already been done. If you're not familiar with Reddit, then it's certainly worth having a look at and having a go through. Some of the folks who are still on the Reddits, will still reply. So you could drop onto a couple of them if you want to desperately ask me something else, or just ask me on info@laveradio.com or whatever. But yeah, there's still opportunity for people to talk about particular things. And you've got quite a schedule coming up. They've got the Distant Worlds group coming up on the 25th, and then through April you've got a whole list of different people. You got a couple are also that they're looking to schedule at the moment. So yeah, all very interesting. And it's a nice way to get some profile in that regard. To get people who have been involved, back and talking about things that they've done, because it's been a while for some of this stuff. People have missed it, haven't seen it. Okay, so that about does us for Community Corner. Do we have any questions that have come in, folks?
I don't have any questions, but there is something that I think people might be interested in knowing about.
Okay.
It's just been advertised on the forum, and I was being on forum and Reddit. There is a website called Looking for Wing, which is lfw.io. And here, this is a new tool that someone's put up, which allows people or commanders to get in contact so that they can wing up and arrange missions. I think this is the kind of tool that people will probably find useful. So you do have to have create a login and a password, but once you're there, I think the process is quite simple.
And it's a very pretty page. I've just gone on. What a lovely starfield they've got in the background. I was sitting there looking at it and thinking maybe that's a bit tiled, but actually no. It's they've managed to sort of put the middle panel onto the center of that, and it looks gorgeous. What a lovely page. Really, really simple URL, lfw.io. as you say, Colin, and very easy to get onto, and just log in, and obviously you can find some friends, which for Elite Dangerous is, as you've already proved this evening, essential.
Yes. Although I don't think Big Al needed much tea, to be honest.
That's always useful. It means you got the rest of the pot for someone else.
Yes, true.
I've just got an order in for some tea as well, actually. Apparently, an Andrew Dean is looking for a nice, fresh, hot serving.
Okay, well, I suggest you boil up or get Colin to put the cozy on. What do you reckon?
At the moment, I've got to go and talk to George Lucas about Big Al, but and his tea. So once that's done, I might be able to pop back.
You see, in the old days, in some of my other things that I did when I used to wear costume and run around woodlands, we would have a secret code, and it was invented by someone else to prevent altercations. It was a secret code for when you needed a healer. And instead of shouting out healer, because what that would do is get a healer to run into the woods, and obviously they could be ambushed, we would shout oranges. So if you needed a healer, it was oranges, and and so on and so forth. So I like the idea that tea is now, something we can use as a means of getting past Lave security. That sounds good.
It's also very, very British.
Well,
it was the Arthur Dent Appreciation Society.
Well, there is that, but that's what's happened, isn't it, really? That's what's happened this evening. So, yeah. Cool. Okay, so let's look through. So, essentially, we're down to the shout-outs, really, gentlemen. So, let's have a run through then. So, who do we have in-game around Lave Station?
I think Colin and I have both deserted everybody around who was in game, but I think we have to give a shout out to Levianova, maybe?
Yep.
And Hawkus Alpha.
Okay,
Yes.
fantastic. What have they been up to? They come and help you with tea, or
Yes,
did
they have been helping to serve tea.
that's very kind.
And the rest of the teammates. I am outside Lave. We have Commander Malialau, Tokis Varks, Saltire, Cosmic Creepers, Starion, Gabriel Luna, and Commander Icefire, Commander Arkenbost, and I'm trying to think who has been giving me abuse all night. Hot Sporin has been giving me abuse all evening.
He always gives you abuse.
You get abuse from a hot Sporin all evening. That's just obviously cultural. And what about the IRC chat?
IRC's been around tonight and they've been nattering away as per usual. Starion's been asking for you, though, Cal, I have to admit. But no, in IRC we've had Arkham Boust again. I can't move this out of the way. Academic Dust 894, and that's not you, is it, Alan?
No, that's not an alter ego of mine. No, I'm afraid not.
Commander Asrian, Commander Batster, who was also outside of Lave earlier, I believe. Commander Highbite, Commander Icefire, Levianova again, Lucius, Caliber Corp, Nilezen, Collins here, Ripped, Sneevus, and Starion again.
Okay, and what about Twitch? Anyone over on Twitch?
Loads of people on Twitch who have been absolutely stunned and amazed by the amazing skills that I have been showing them at landing on planets. I think a few of them have been taking notes. Chris Jarvis, I think I have put shame on you. Shame on you in your last couple of streams. You just haven't got that ability to land like a boss like I do. We have almost different Balzid Brit, Bitstorm, Commander Azeron, Jack Shit, Declared Somonian, Ford Prefect, Garzini, Highbite, Smashing Pumpkins, Justin, Lagoon, A Hunter, Leo Sagan, Maverick, Mepholet, or Mepholet, Midanthrope, Mr. Purple Streak, Nosiri, Rummick Uke, Shadow 333, Smarty 901, Space Lennon, Tarkus Black, Thirsty Badger, Varun 74, Whoever 11, Worship FSM, okay, Watcher, and Zaklo Bester Photoboy.
Ooh, that sounds painful.
Well, obviously there's something related to photos, which
Grant, can I just ask, is that now code landing like a boss? Is that now code for a faceplant?
I wouldn't call it face planting. I very rarely face plant, but I certainly do scrape my exhaust along a planet for a bit.
So you're leaving
something
skid
else.
Marks then?
I did notice that the code are having missions in. Now, where was I? So the code seemed to have relocated into Aurora, I think it is. Zeons.
Okay. Well, there's a bank over there, so all right. So further to that, I've got a couple of shout outs here. Just a small apology and commiserations to my board gaming pals. I was due to be down at back in Andover to meet up with my old friends who I play board games with every time I get a chance to. We were going to have a bout of XCOM and Arkham Horror, I think. So that's Andy, Richard, and James. I'm trying to remember James's commander name in Elite Dangerous. And both Richard and James both play. They're avid Elite fans, so they're dead keen on the game. And James was the first person that got me into Elite way back in the 1980s. So bless him, he's followed everything I've been doing. And Richard as well. We used to sort of hang around when he had Frontier and Elite on the Amstrad. So yeah, sorry guys that I didn't make it down for the board game evening. The next one we're working out is in May, so that's the next time we're all free to meet up and play that, which should be good. We generally have a good night. And also, can we? Okay, I'll just read what you've said. Alan, can you shout out to Commander Bapster 18? Ben says. So, hi, Commander Bapster. Apparently, you're twitching as well. The use of the word twitch, twitching, as it were, it kind of makes me think of bird watchers, and is all a bit. I'm still not quite used to that. I'm kind of used to it, but I guess it's about growing up and being old. And
well, just be thankful that you didn't make the mistake that I did last week of mixing twitching and chatting.
Okay.
And getting twatching, which is not a good idea.
No, I would suggest you didn't do that. So, and you wanted to talk a little bit about the miniatures game, did you, Colin?
Yes, well, one of the things that, as everybody seems to know about, is that I've been working with some new rules with Dave Hughes of the Elite Encounters role-playing game. And I think sometime in the next week, I'll be putting up a couple of test demonstrations on the Top Shift on the YouTube channel. So anybody who's interested in those kind of board games is quite welcome to examine the demo, see whether or not I got the rules right, give us some constructive criticism.
always helpful.
And please bear in mind that we can't use X-Wing rules anymore because they won't give us the license. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I've got a couple of shout-outs here, one of which is just to let people know, if they didn't already, my first fantasy novel, The Sword of Wissamere, is currently available for free on Amazon. It's available in the UK and the US and in Germany and all good Amazon websites. You can find that just by typing in Wissamere into an Amazon search. That's Wisimir, and that's available for free up until the end of tomorrow. So yeah, last thing at night. It might roll over a little bit into Thursday morning because I think it's Pacific time they base everything on. So, but don't count on it. So if you can, if you've got a Kindle, if you've got another ebook reader, get onto Amazon, go download it and enjoy it. It's one of the reasons why it's there and it's free. And also, if you're particularly politically inclined, since the last time I've been on, I've released a set of poetry. So if you're interested in blue balls and what they're doing with our government, then go have a look at Tory Times. Tory Times is a collection of satirical poetry about the Conservative Party. I'm sure. I never thought I would ever write poems. I never thought I would ever write a book on poems. I'm sure if you're into comedy about the Conservative Party, I mean, it's not hard to write comedy about the Conservative Party at the moment. Then please do have a look and see if they will make you chuckle.
What can you rhyme with Ian Duncan Smith?
Oh, trust me, man. It's IDS is very easy to make something work.
Not as easy as Mr. Hunt.
Have you seen the I did of IDS? Have you seen the image I did of IDS? And the image.
Oh no, not yet.
The image of IDS is because basically Tory Times, all of the subjects are all circular blue balls, and they've then all got sort of slightly different things on them. So David Cameron has got a top hat, and he's standing next to a pig. And George Osborne has got a red suitcase and lots of money and a tiny hat. Ian Duncan Smith is attached to a disabled sign, so the ball is his head. And if you think of the wheelchair disabled sign, and then I managed to find two little pieces of two sort of grey tufts to go on the side of the ball. And it's surprising how you can make a ball look like a person just with a tiny thing. So those two little tufts of hair on the side of his head really sort of made it work. So I was quite proud of that one. So that was that. Didn't think I'd be talking about poetry that much. Never mind. Okay, so I think there's nothing else, gentlemen.
I think
one more.
Oh, did we miss something? What did we miss, Ben?
Yeah, well, just wanting to remind everybody for tomorrow's Alt Lave stream as well.
Of course. Yeah, we couldn't not do that. And, obviously with Fozza back as host, then, that would be important to make sure that we reminded everyone about. Tomorrow, Planet Coaster. So if Planet Coaster is your thing, and roller coasters and designing roller coasters and all of the accoutrements that come with that, and designing toilet blocks, I think, obviously very important thing to make sure that children know how to design toilet blocks. Then please do tune in tomorrow. I'm sure the guys will be criticizing, analyzing, eulogizing, appreciating, depreciating, and everything else, every other superlative and verb that they can bring to Planet Coaster to try and work out how to play it, what to do, what the best things are, and everything else. Wonder if Frontier will fix the installer by then. What do you reckon?
They've patched it about 3 times today, I believe. So I'm assuming, though I can't prove this or not, that it's better now than it was earlier.
Well, I guess you're going to find out, won't you? So in time, though, if people do want to, to listen to our essentially, well, I'm not going to hype it too much and say it's a definitive guide to to Planet Coaster, but our show and experience of Planet Coaster, the guys are already testing, playing, breaking, doing whatever they can with Planet Coaster right now. So if you've already got the game, then do install it, get a hold of it, go have a look, see what else is going on. I think you guys have probably already mentioned that Julian Gollop of Chaos Reborn and Laser Squad and etc. They've just started alluding to their new game, which is Phoenix Point. We don't know much about it yet. I'm over in Bulgaria with Julian next Tuesday. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm in Bulgaria to chat with Julian. So kind of hoping he's going to fill me in on what's to come, which will be exciting. I'm sure I can report back if anyone's interested. Sometime in the week after. And I think that's pretty much everything. Did I miss anything else?
No, I think we're all covered.
Okay,
Just a reminder about Elite Meet, if you want information, or if you are coming, we are just trying to arrange name badges, so if you have booked and not given commander names, then if you don't give us some, we might just have to make them up for you. And we're also going to be putting up a nice deal that we arranged today. They gave us a really good deal for a buffet dinner on the Saturday night, so we're going to get details of that up. So do check out the website, elitemeet.info. If you're coming and you've not got tickets yet, then hurry up. What are you waiting for? It's going to be epic. It really is.
Yeah, no, definitely. Karen and I are coming. We've got EasterCon this weekend, so EasterCon's up in Manchester. We're there for the British Fantasy Society this weekend, and then in Bulgaria during the week, or I am in Bulgaria during the week, and then straight up to Glasgow for Elite Meet. And I think, Grant, I'm bringing mice you wanted, and I'm bringing the DMX connectors for Artemis, so which we're going to have a try at and see if they work. So yeah, exciting. Busy time all over the shop. Really busy. Good job I got a passport. It would have been terrible. Managed to pick a passport up on Monday. So yeah, all right. That's it for another episode of Lave Radio then. If you want to get in touch with us, then as always, you can email the show at info@laveradio.com, Facebook/Lave Radio, @Lave Radio on Twitter, or you can join the Discord channel by going to http://tinyurl.com/Lave Radio, or you can join the TeamSpeak server, which is laveradio.teamspeak3.com. Lave Radio is recorded live on a Tuesday evening at 8:30 p.m. GMT and streamed out via http://laveradio.com/live. Thanks to thanks to whoever. Thanks to everyone that's joined us on the show tonight, everyone that's out there in game, everyone that we've given a shout out to, people that are listening. Thanks to you guys. Thanks Grant, thanks Ben, thanks Colin. And it's been a long time, I kind of miss this a little bit. I do my best to get on. It's been nice. It's been real. It's been great to see everybody. And hopefully I'll see you all in game very soon. So until next time, fly safe. If you can't fly safe, make a cup of tea. Good night. Yeah, make a cup of tea. Make a cup of tea. Fly dangerous. Good night. Take care.
Good night.
Is your life like this?
Sounds like someone having an orange inserted. You need a safe word.
Space can be lonely.
I'm going to see the galaxy.
Damn it. No worries, guys. Hold the fort for 2 seconds. I'll be right back.
Lave Radio, transmitting to every corner of the galaxy.